must be a dream. Now hush, little baby, don't you cry. Everything's gonna be alright. Stiffen that up, pull it up, little lady. I told you, daddy's here to hold you through the night. I know mommy's not here right now, and we don't know. It's not going down.
The zombie apocalypse, whatever you choose to call it, it's arrived.
It may seem a little crazy, pretty baby, but I promise mama's gonna be alright. It's funny. Pretty baby, but I promise mama's gonna be alright. It's funny.
Starvation results in decrease in blood glucose level. Therefore, a negative feedback mechanism will occur in order to restore homeostasis by maintaining the normal blood glucose level and energy generation. It involves three phases of metabolism, which is carbohydrate, lipid, and protein metabolism. When there are no food supply, human body needs glucose to obtain the energy. Therefore, during starvation mode, the human body will undergo carbohydrate metabolism. It is the most fundamental biochemical process that ensures a constant supply of energy to living cells. Carbohydrate metabolism is also a preferred pathway for the body to obtain glucose during starvation mode. After certain of time, carbohydrate metabolism is starting to produce the pathway. There are two pathways. The first one is glycogenolysis that happens in 1 to 6 hours of starvation period. After that, it will switch to gluconeogenesis pathway that happens within 10 to 24 hours of starvation period. Glycogen is important to supply glucose and it's stored mainly in the liver and muscle. After 6 hours of starvation, the glycogenolysis will take place. In this pathway, the glycogen will be converted to glucose by glycogen phosphorylation and enzymes such as phosphoglucomutase and glucose-6-phosphatase. However, after 10 hours of starvation, the glycogen will finally be depleted and the pathway will be switched to gluconeogenesis. This pathway is also known as reverse process of glycolysis. In gluconeogenesis, pyruvate will be converted to oxaloacetate using pyruvate carboxylase enzyme. And then the oxaloacetate will be converted to phosphoenolpyruvate by PEP carboxykinase. The phosphoenolpyruvate is converted to 2-phosphoglycerate using enolase. Then, the phosphoglycerate mutase will convert 2-phosphoglycerate to 3-phosphoglycerate. After that, phosphoglycerate kinase will convert 3-phosphoglycerate to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, and then it converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate using glyceraldehyde phosphate dehydrogenase. Then they continue converted to the dihydroxyacetone phosphate by triose phosphate isomerase. After that, it converts to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate by aldolase. The fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is then converted to the glucose 6-phosphate by phosphohexose isomerase. And finally, the glucose is obtained from the conversion of glucose 6-phosphate by glucose 6-phosphatase. However, body can gain ATP from other pathway, which is from the lipid and protein metabolism. If food is still not available for a longer period of time, after all the carbohydrate metabolism, all the glycogen and pyruvate reserve will be used up. The fatty acid with lipid will become the principal metabolic fuel for the next 2 to 3 days. In the lipid metabolism, fats will be overtaken by glycerol and free fatty acid molecule by lipase. Glycerol is converted to glucose during gluconeogenesis pathway in the liver. Once the triglycerides are broken down to glycerol and fatty acid, they enter the mitochondria and proceed with beta oxidation. Remember that the free fatty acid has to be acylated first before entering mitochondria. This process is done by acyl-CoA mechanism that produce fatty acyl-CoA. In the form of fatty acyl-CoA, now it's ready to enter the mitochondria. In the mitochondria, there are 4 major steps of beta oxidation that will be carried out. Why the name is beta oxidation? Well, it is because of the bond between the alpha and beta carbon is the one that is cleaved. So, the first step is the dehydrogenation of fatty acyl-CoA to make a trans double bond between alpha and beta carbon. It continues with the second step, which is the hydration of the double bond to produce L3-hydroxyacyl-CoA. In the third step, oxidation, it will be converted into a ketone 3-ketoacyl-CoA. Lastly, the thiolysis or the cleavage step will provide us with 1 acyl-CoA and 1 acetyl-CoA molecule that can be used in the Krebs cycle. When glucose made from the glycerol is not sufficient to support the needs of the body, the liver will start to produce ketone bodies from precursors obtained from the breakdown of fatty acids. 1 week after the last meal, all of the energy has been used up and now the body undergoes the last result, which is protein metabolism. The protein metabolism happens when the cell in the body start to break down protein to provide for the entire system. During protein metabolism, the protein will undergo proteolysis to produce amino acid. After that, it will undergo the amination process to produce amino group and keto group. Why the amination is important? It is because the breakdown of amino acid can release nitrogen-containing amine group, which can be toxic to the cell. During the deamination process, amino group will become urea and will be excreted from the body. The keto group will enter the metabolic pathway. For energy production, amino acids are further broken down to obtain ATP. Though not all amino acid can be used for gluconeogenesis, only gluconic amino acid can be converted into pyruvate or Krebs cycle intermediate. Other amino acids like ketogenic amino acids cannot be used for gluconeogenesis. Therefore, real starvation starts now. At this point, there are no carbs or lipids or fats, but only protein as a source of energy. The body is now basically eating itself by consuming proteins provided by muscle, and this will cause weak muscle. The weak muscle will lead to weak cardiac muscle, which can cause cardiac arrest that will eventually lead to death. When the body has no protein, it will lack enzymes that inhibit chemical reaction in cells that slow down the metabolic reaction, which can also lead to death. But don't worry, the body still have ketone body metabolism pathway that saves the protein. As the body shifts to the ketone body metabolism, it puts less pressure on the body to undergo gluconeogenesis. So, less pressure on the body to break down protein, and the body can still function under severe starvation condition. The starvation mechanism will help the girl survive for several days before help arrives.